Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our channel, Us Immigration News. We hope you're doing great. In this video, we're going to talk about mass deportation alert. Trump's first-day plan could target 1.4 million. On day one of a potential Trump presidency, 1.4 million people could be at the center of a sweeping deportation initiative. This bold plan underscores Trump's renewed focus on immigration enforcement, sparking fear and uncertainty among millions living in the U.S. without legal status. As the rhetoric ramps up, what does this mean for those at risk and for the nation? Donald Trump is preparing for what could become the largest deportation operation in American history, with over 1.4 million individuals at risk. This plan threatens to uproot families, disrupt communities, and reshape the national immigration landscape. These deportations would start with those who have final removal orders, but Trump's vision goes far beyond. From targeting sanctuary cities to leveraging military resources, this strategy aims to fulfill a promise that could profoundly impact millions of lives. If successful, this plan would undermine the administration's economic, budget-cutting, and bureaucracy reduction goals, while devastating families. The president-elect has incessantly described the undocumented as polluters of the nation's blood, as criminals, animals, invaders, and worse. Yet undocumented immigrants have long tenure here and are linchpins in essential occupations and industries, raising the question of how mass deportation became the centerpiece of the incoming administration's agenda. The concept is hardly new. The U.S. has been carrying out large-scale deportations for decades. Congress and successive administrations have invested massive amounts in immigration enforcement, roughly a 9-fold increase in real dollars since 2002. Yet Trump surrogates insist his plan will require massive additional investments. Trump's last White House tour saw fewer annual immigrant removals than in previous administrations. For his second act, he has vowed to deport a record 1 million people per year and to seal the U.S.-Mexico border. Neither will happen, but the plan will have severe consequences for immigrants. Many will avoid accessing public services for which they are eligible. They will fail to report crimes or cooperate in investigations due to fear of deportation. Here will be a surge in anti-immigrant hate crimes. Vigilante proposals, such as Senate Bill 72 in Missouri, which would pay state residents to find and detain their undocumented neighbors, will proliferate. Even with those miseries, it's unlikely that large numbers will self-deport, as the incoming administration urges. Most of the undocumented have made their lives in the U.S. and believe they're, mostly, us. Citizen children will enjoy a better future here than in their communities of origin. So they'll do what immigrants have always done and try to tough it out. Trump continues to sell his plans through a combination of falsehoods and proposals that will not survive legal challenges. He has inflated the size of the undocumented population, claiming 15 million, 20 million, and exaggerated the threat it poses. There are roughly 11.7 million undocumented people in the U.S., slightly below the historic high of 12 million in 2008. His plans would actually increase the undocumented population because he also wants to strip residency status from groups granted a temporary home here on humanitarian grounds. Conservatively, 2.5 million people. Venezuelans, Nicaraguans, Haitians, and others will be forced to return to the dangerous countries they fled. Ton Homan, Trump's nominee for border czar, supports deporting us. Citizen children with their undocumented parents. The children in many affected families, however, will remain in the U.S. with a second parent or a legal guardian, or be placed in foster care. The incoming administration will also likely rebuild the so-called paper wall of high fees, bureaucratic barriers, and regulatory requirements deployed during Trump's last term. making it far more difficult for immigrants to gain legal status and permanent residence, further inflating the undocumented population. Most of the undocumented cannot or should not be deported. Many languish, for example, in two of the major backlogs in the immigration system: the immigration court backlog of 3.6 million pending cases and the 4.1 million backlog of people whose visa petitions have been approved. Some people are in both categories or additional backlogs, such as the more than 1 million who have affirmatively requested asylum. The best way to address these groups would be to await the disposition of their cases. The best way to fix the underlying problem would be to reform the visa system and invest far more in the immigration courts and asylum adjudicators. The Posse Comitatus Act of 1870 bars military personnel from civil law enforcement. Yet Trump has argued that he can deploy the military to remove immigrants because these aren't civilians. They are. But are invaders? They are not, like probably no country has ever seen before. Tell that to the Ukrainians. He vows to rescue every city and town that has been invaded and conquered, which would be none. Trump's related proposal to deny citizenship by executive fiat to the U.S. born children of undocumented immigrants applies the logic of the infamous Dred Scott decision to this discrete group. It would violate the plain language of the 14th Amendment and transform a country renowned for its historic genius at integrating immigrants into one with a hereditary underclass of illegal persons. Trump has vowed to target convicted felons and security threats. Yet these populations have been removal priorities of all recent administrations, with the arguable exception of the first Trump administration, which set such broad enforcement priorities that it effectively set no priorities. Moreover, programs and systems have long been in place to remove people after they serve prison sentences. The same holds true for those ordered removed by an immigration judge. Yet immigration and customs enforcement, for various reasons, has failed to execute 1.4 million outstanding removal orders. Trump's case for mass deportations also relies on the inaccurate claim that most immigrants are unchecked and unvetted before entering the country. Instead, most border crossers present themselves to border agents, and most of the undocumented in recent years entered legally on temporary visas, which they overstayed. Trump claims the U.S. will not need to build new migrant detention camps because we'll be bringing them out of the country. But his own appointees have championed camps and vast holding facilities. Trump pardoned and has repeatedly praised Joseph Arpaio, the former sheriff of Maricopa County in Arizona, who detained immigrants in sweltering desert tents and forced men to wear pink underwear, while engaging in a broader pattern of racial profiling and constitutional violations. Perhaps this will be the administration's model. Some immigrants voted for Trump, believing he would improve the economy and deport criminals. However, if past is prologue, the second Trump administration will treat all undocumented immigrants and their children as criminals. This means trying to remove 4.8% of the U.S. workforce at a time of successive years of near full employment. 3/4 of the undocumented are considered essential workers, compared to 65% of native-born. Immigrants also work in more dangerous industries and occupations than natives, as measured by injury and fatality rates. The agricultural, hospitality, construction, and health industries will be particularly hard hit. Employees will disappear, consumer costs will rise, and businesses large and small will fail. There is an alternative. Since 1929, the U.S. has offered legalization, called registry, for undocumented residents with good moral character, acknowledging that otherwise deserving immigrants fall through the cracks of the legal immigration system. In that law's early decades, Congress regularly advanced the entry date for program eligibility. However, to qualify today, an undocumented immigrant would need to have entered the U.S. more than half a century ago. A 1. Sentence Bill, changing the entry date to January 1, 2010 would cover 79 of the U.S. undocumented population and ease pressure on federal immigration agencies. If Trump is serious about fixing our immigration challenges, he should embrace a registry program, provide robust funding for immigration courts, and reform the visa process. All of those actions would do far more to create a successful and safe immigration system and country than a cruel mass deportation program. How Trump plans to execute mass deportations. Targeted countries. Who's at risk? The majority of final removal orders are for nationals of Honduras, 260,000, Guatemala, 253,000, El Salvador, 204,000, and Mexico, 252,000. Geographic proximity and strong diplomatic relationships make deportations to these countries relatively simple. In contrast, deporting individuals to recalcitrant countries like China, Venezuela, Cuba, and Iran presents diplomatic challenges. These nations may refuse deportation flights or limit cooperation, complicating removal efforts. Collateral arrests and broader implications. Even immigrants not initially targeted may be swept up in Trump's plan. ICE practices collateral arrests, meaning agents detain anyone deemed deportable during operations targeting specific individuals. This could result in undocumented individuals being arrested simply for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Disturbingly, Trump's plan may also affect individuals with legal immigration status. For instance, temporary protected status, TPS. Holders could see their protections revoked in humanitarian parole programs like SHUV, which benefits over 1.3 million people, are also under threat. Hope for asylum seekers. One potential safeguard lies in pending asylum applications. Historically, the U.S. government allows asylum applicants to complete their cases before initiating deportation proceedings. This policy offers a glimmer of hope for those fearing persecution in their home countries. Immigrants with TPs or humanitarian parole should consider applying for asylum if they haven't already. That is all for today in this video. What are your thoughts on this? Please let us know in the comments section below. Thanks for watching the entire video. Hopefully, the information is useful to you. See you later in the next video. Till then, take care.
Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel US Immigration News. We hope you are doing great. In this video, we are going to talk about mass deportation alert. Trump's first day plan could target 1.4 million. The incoming administration mass deportation plan poses significant risk, undermining economic goals, cutting public services, and harming families. The president-elect has a long vilified undocumented immigrants, calling them criminals and invaders. Yet many of them have lived in the US for years and play crucial roles in essential industries. Despite past large-scale depression, the plan seeks to deport a record 1 million people per year, with severe consequences for immigrants. Undocumented immigrants are likely to avoid accessing public services, fear reporting crime, and face increased hate crimes and violent actions. Despite these fears, many will not self-deport, as most have a strong ties to the US through their families, particularly US-born children. The plan is built on inflated numbers and accretion about the undocumented population, which stands at around 11.7 million, not the claim 15 to 20 million. Moreover, it could increase the undocumented population by stripping residency from those granted temporary status, such as Venezuelans and Nicaraguans. Undocumented immigrants are already stuck in immigration backlogs, and the system is overwhelmed. Instead of depression, reforms in the visa system and investment in immigration courts would address the issue more effectively. Proposal to deploy the military for depression and deny citizenship to US-born children of undocumented immigrants would be unconstitutional and violate the 14th Amendment. The plan targets convicted criminal and security threat, but these groups are already prioritized for removal. He claimed that immigrants enter unchecked inaccurate, as most undocumented individuals entered legally on a temporary visas. The administration plan also neglect the reality of the U.S. workforce, where undocumented immigrants make up a significant portion of essential workers. Mass deportation could lead to a workforce shortages, rising consumer costs, and business failures. Instead of mass deportation, the US could introduce a registry program that would allow many undocumented residents to legalize their status. A bill changing the eligibility date for the program could cover most of the undocumented population and alleviate pressure on immigration agencies. Alongside reform to the visa process and the investment in immigration courts would create a more effective immigration system than the proposed mass deportation.